Resident Evil 0 through 3 and Code Veronica will always have a special place in my ass for being the only games to ever truly terrify me. And the reason they were so scary was mainly to do with the shitty controls and camera angles. So I totally understand why Capcom would never go back to the style again, but that doesn't mean another company can't try. And that's exactly what Vaccine on the Nintendo Switch does. But is it any good? Does it compare to the original Resident Evil games? Or is it just a cheap attempt at luring people into spending $10 that they can never get back? Stay tuned and find out after this sentence. Kind of. Hell no. Yes. My name's Cameron, and I'll tell you why. Obviously, the reason Capcom hasn't gone back to fix camera angles and tank controls for Resident Evil games is because, while it does make the games far more scary, the scares are more along the lines of being cheap, seeing as how they rely on unreliability. But that doesn't mean a throwback horror game couldn't appeal to a few people like myself who are more open to the older format. And while Vaccine's game engine resembles OGRE close enough, I don't really know why anybody would want to make a game like this. I mean, besides me, this one guy named Steve, and like 4 other people, not that many people miss the old format. So I'd imagine the developers at Rainy Frog were just passionate about the classic Resident Evil games, and surely Vaccine will be a good fan-made throwback, right? Well, not at all, seeing as how this game blows it right off the bat. Instead of being in the survival horror genre, this is an action-adventure game of all things, with some RPG elements peppered in here and there. The goal is to save your friend who's infected by like the colon T virus or something like that by getting him a vaccine within the time limit by traversing through a mansion with randomly generated rooms. We don't really know who these characters are or why they're in this situation to begin with. They don't even name the friend laying on the bed who you're trying to find a cure for. And if the game doesn't even care enough to name this poor asshole, then why should I care to save him? The game implies that your dumbass buddy's infected with something viral, but all of the signs in this game point to supernatural tomfoolery more than anything else. Regardless of why all this is happening though, Vaccine's not even the least bit scary. It didn't even make me pee my pants once. I mean, I did poop my pants while playing, but that wasn't even fear-related. It was only because people kept talking about how you could play the Nintendo Switch while pooping without getting in trouble. And silly old me stained my mom's couch because I didn't read the fine print that says you need to play in handheld mode and be on the toilet for this feature to be fully effective. Besides not being scary though, this game copies pretty much everything else from the classic Resident Evil games. In addition to the controls and camera angles, the background music sounds similar, the monsters are lazily copied, characters are blocky, the year in the game's 1998, you find documents with hints scattered about, it says you failed instead of you died. They mention Moonlight Sonata when you investigate pianos, and the name of the game's pronounced before you begin.
Vaccine.
They knew damn well what they were doing, and it's more along the lines of an homage than a ripoff. But again, they didn't copy the most important thing, the horror. They tried to incorporate the second best part of the classic Resident Evil games by having puzzles, but the puzzles don't feel like they were made by fans of the original series since there's not even an ass hair of effort required to solving them at all. All you do is move some puzzle pieces around until a portal closes off, and it literally takes about 5 seconds each time. Even though arranging all the pieces blindly was enough for me to solve all the puzzles, I looked it up online afterwards to see if I did everything the right way, and everybody else did the same thing as me, which was pretty much nothing. And just like the rest of the game, that's really lazy. This game feels like it was made by a bunch of random butt-asses who were reading Resident Evil message boards online, and took a few comments from people who missed the classic series to heart and decided to make a game to cash in on a market that's not even really there. It doesn't feel like the creators of this game even played the original Resident Evils. It's as if they watched a walkthrough of Resident Evil 1 online to get the gist of it, without really understanding why people loved the older games to begin with. Like I said, for better or worse, the tank controls did make Resident Evil games scarier, but nobody on the planet wanted an action game built around these mechanics besides like this one guy right here. Yeah, that guy, fuck him. That defeats the whole purpose. I mean, for somebody like me who got used to tank controls even before Resident Evil back in Nam, which was hell by the way, the game's alright to play through once or twice. While it's somewhat difficult to figure out at first, after trying like 3 times, you'll learn how to beat all 5 different enemies with just the knife and breeze through the game. The only enemies that are difficult to kill at all are the off-brand lickers if you don't have a shotgun, and everything else is easier than scoring with my dad. I had a good time beating the game once, but I can't ever see myself playing this again. If you're used to modern games, especially modern Resident Evil games, then there's no reason why I'd recommend this game to you since you're gonna hate the controls. And I don't know what's worse, the fact that the developers, Rainy Frog, chose such an obscure thing with no demand to try and cash in on, or the fact that they did such a bad job at cashing in on a throwback to the old Resident Evil games to where both new and old fans are dissatisfied. All they had to do was give us a story with terrible voice acting, give us actual puzzles, and focus on making the game scary. Had they done all that, this could have been a really awesome game. I didn't set my expectations too high, but I was still a little disappointed. Instead of being a Resident Evil throwback, it just felt like a tech demo meant to convince people to fund a full game on Kickstarter with all the improvements I just mentioned. And if we're talking about completing an unfinished game, then I'd rather just see Resident Evil 1.5 instead. So whether or not you give a monkey's nutsack about classic Resident Evil games, save your time and money and stay far away from Vaccine. I mean, you'd be better off getting sick and needing a real vaccine instead.
Oh my god, that is funny!
What about you? Have you played this game? If so, let me know what you think down in the comments below. And if not, let me know whether you'll heed my warning or play Vaccine anyway just to spite my bitch ass. Don't forget to like and share this video if you enjoyed it. And if you're an ultra mega badass who likes being pandered to in end slates, then go ahead and press the subscribe button. My name's Cameron, and I'll see you next time.
So I want to say thank you to your loyalty. Thank you for your support.